All right, we are live now. My name is Dom Tischer. I'm here with some friends of mine, Dustin Schaefer and Javier Castro. And the purpose of this webinar is we want to discuss uh, the power of ketones and ketosis when it comes to traumatic events. And we want to kind of figure out and discuss can ketones and ketosis help us overcome some of the effects of traumatic events. So before we get into that, I want to give you a little backstory about myself, and then we'll pass it around the room here, just so that way everybody feels comfortable about who we are. As I said, my name's Dom Tischer. I retired from the Army, medically retired, after 17 and a half years. I was an infantryman. I jumped out of planes. I've been to combat. I deployed 9 different times and suffered several different injuries. And then I was forced to retire for a multitude of reasons. So I'm very familiar with traumatic events and the effects of them. So that's kind of my background. Dustin, let's go over to you. What's yours?
All right, so I'm a former recon Marine. Got out and went back and played college football after the military. I did a 4-year service, and my traumatic events kind of started earlier in life. My first severe concussion was when I was around 8 years old, and if you know anybody that's had head trauma, they escalate over time. So once you have one, it multiplies. So throughout that, even in the military, with the trauma that I experienced, basically by the time I finished my college career, I'd had a total of 13 major head traumas, and the impact is quite dramatic, on how it affects your mood, how it affects how your body functions, and just day-to-day life. And so after I left the Marine Corps, I transitioned into the health and fitness world and trying to teach people how to have a better health while mine was steadily on a decline. And I had to go back into a kind of like relook at myself at 26 years old and say, okay, how do I get back in control of my life and my health? And which has led me down this path of really understanding what topic we're going to talk about today and why it's so valuable, because I believe we can overcome a lot of these situations from our past based on getting the body back in a really healthy state so that we can all benefit from just a clear mind.
Right. So, we lost Javier, that's a great thing about being live. Things happen, right? But we're just going to roll with this if that's all right with you, Dustin.
Yeah, absolutely. And Javier is definitely, he'll probably get back on here in a second, and he can give his experience and his expertise that can help just validate why we're having this conversation today.
Right. And, I think this is a conversation that needs to happen because so many people experience different traumatic events in life, and unfortunately these events tend to take us to darker places sometimes, and a lot of people don't want to talk about it. For an example, for me, I have my head injuries from explosions, and well, I was a grunt, so I probably ran into a few walls, but let's kind of, until Javier jumps on, I'm just going to take it to the next step. And we kind of want to have these webinars go in succession and make sure that we cover things that are important to not just you and me, but to other people that may be watching and want to take part in this conversation. But a lot of times these traumatic events, whether it be from concussions or traumatic brain injuries or whatever, it scars a person, if you will, for a lack of a better term. And it can cause some cognitive impairment or function. We're just not operating on all 8 cylinders, if you will. So it can cause some memory issues, some social function impairment, some speech impairment, anxiety, depression, mood swings, weight gain. I could attest to the weight gain. The migraines, inflammation, and pain. I mean, the list goes on. But I want to kind of touch on the thing that it doesn't have to be just because you and I are former trigger pullers and we were combat arms in the military. This conversation extends past the military into other people that maybe experienced other traumatic events, just like car accidents, rapes, things like that. They all take their toll, and not one is less important than the other. So on that, I guess research has shown that ketones are produced through our body or in our body through the metabolism or metabolizing of fats. Can you kind of tell us about ketones, what they are?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I used to help get myself back into a healthier state was I used something called a high-fat, low-carb diet, which produced ketones. So I depleted my body of glucose and carbohydrates. Some people may be familiar with like an Atkins-type diet or a ketogenic diet, and what that would do is it would eat your body fat. And people use this often for weight loss, but the truth is ketones are a really, really valuable, steady fuel source, kind of a source that our ancestors lived on for most of our existence. And when those ketones are broken down and we basically digest our body fat, they absorb very easily into the body for energy. What they're showing is there's a lot of evidence now and research suggesting that when a body is under a traumatic event or inflammation's present, when it's inflamed, like what I felt when after multiple head traumas, it's there's inflammation in your brain, and almost like it just doesn't feel right or it hurts, and you react to situations that you don't really enjoy or whatever it is, you overreact. What happens when ketones are present, it basically absorbs faster where glucose doesn't get in, and it can allow the body and brain to be fed, so therefore you can get this relaxing effect, this calming effect that come along with that. So ketones are a very natural state for the humans to be in, are produced with your own body fat, or digested or consumed fat can also produce ketones, certain ones can. And it's a very easy fuel source, especially when your body's under some trauma in some sorts.
So now we have Javier. He's back on with us. Before we get to Javier telling us about himself, so what I'm kind of gathering is that ketones are a fuel source. It's an alternate fuel source other than what we generally take in with our Snickers bars and bagels and things like that. Pretty much we're fueling our bodies off of fat, and out of that comes ketones, which don't require as much effort. I guess the ketones don't require as much effort to get into the brain and other parts of the body, which help decrease inflammation, which can alleviate some of these other symptoms, and maybe help, or research has suggested, actually helps with the cognitive function from somebody like you and I that have multiple concussions. We kind of lose some of our, our cognitive function. You see, I'm searching for words here. So that's kind of what we're talking about. It's a natural thing. It's a natural process. However, through diet, we have to be on a very restricted diet, which is sometimes very difficult for the average person to stay with. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, that's what I did. I kind of ran out of options at 26, and I looked in the mirror one day and decided, like, what do I have? Basically everything was gloom and gloomer. And when you're asked if you ever want to play with your kids again, and I didn't even have them yet, in your mid-20s, it became, reality hit me hard. So I decided that I had to follow this diet. But then teaching it, I realized it's not many people are willing to do it, and not well enough, long enough to get the true benefits. And so with, if there's an alternative way of doing that, it can be very useful for people. And more and more, it's like, we use the word alternative fuel source, ketones can be, but it's almost a priority fuel source in this traumatic event. It's kind of like when our ancestors were struggling, it'd be nice when they were in famine or just struggling with life, that there was an easier way to get fuel during that state. And this is kind of almost like God's gift to us for keeping it basic and simple. And so I think it even is more than an alternative. I almost look at it as a primary fuel sources in the right situations,
Sure.
and really can help people out.
Awesome. Well, Javier, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and your experiences and your expertise?
Absolutely, yes, sir. My name is Javier. I spent 21 years in the military. I'm retired now, retired from the Army, just like you did. were diagnosed as well with PTSD and all the little perks that come with it, depression, anxiety, compulsive behavior. Started taking the product sometime in July last year, but I did not do it seriously until August. And I immediately I was able to see some of the results. Initially, I started taking it for more of a, performance, because I didn't think I needed to lose any weight. But
So
yeah,
I hate to interrupt you, Javier, but you're talking about a product, and are we talking about the Keto OS?
yes, sir, Keto OS. Yeah, I started taking Keto OS sometime in July, and in August I did it more seriously. I was more engaged, and there were plenty of benefits to it that I experienced. Not so much the weight loss. I did experience weight loss, but there were more of a cognitive positive things about it. Became more focused. That's my personal experience with it.
Yeah, can I pop in there? So we're obviously at no point trying to make any medical claims here, guys, at all. But Javier, really quick, can you just tell them a little bit about you? What do you do for a living? What's your day-to-day life? What is it that you do on a regular basis?
Yes, I'm a mental health therapist. I work right now with addictions and anxiety. I used to work before at the VA with PTSD, combat veterans. I switched to addiction. So I deal with a lot of people that have been addicted to either alcohol or drug addictions. They deal with anxiety, depression, compulsive behavior, violent behavior, things like that. I've been doing that for quite a while now. I have a master's degree in mental health therapist. And I enjoy it thoroughly, man. I've been doing it for quite a while now.
Well, that's pretty awesome. It's awesome that you're willing to take on that role to try and help more people overcome their traumatic events and some of the symptoms that come along with that. And since you brought up the product, we were kind of talking, while you were kind of kicked off, I guess. While you were off, Dustin and I were talking about the ketogenic diet. And how our body produces ketones naturally. So it's a natural occurring thing if our body is burning fat for fuel. So that brings me to my next point, Dustin, is, and Javier touched on this, but what if you have somebody like myself that isn't willing to diet a whole lot, especially to the amount that I need to receive long-term benefits from ketones? Is there another option? I know we've already discussed it. It's a silly question, but still, what's the other option?
Yeah, what's interesting by that is, and I'll even one up that a little, where you say somebody like yourself, which, in this industry of teaching a high-fat, low-carb diet and teaching people how to get in ketosis for as long as I have, if you take somebody that is, athletic, dialed in, focused, has a vision to exactly what they want, they tend to be able to handle this easier. Not that other people don't, but I mean around health. But now you take somebody that has multiple head traumas or has a traumatic event in their life that they're already struggling with just day-to-day life. They maybe don't even like to look at themselves in a mirror. They just don't, they're not even comfortable with it. And it's interesting how many people I ask just look in the mirror and look at themselves and they won't do it. Now asking them to change their whole life, follow a really strict diet, very unlikely they're going to be successful, just because it's like they already feel like they have 1,000 pounds on their shoulders, and now I got to add another 1,000 for them to figure this all out. So adding what we have as Keto OS, I was very fortunate to meet a gentleman in birthing class of all places, and he brought it to me and said, "Hey, what would you do if you had a product that could put somebody in a therapeutic level of ketones in their body in 30 to 60 minutes?" I was floored. The BS meter went off. I'm like, that's not impossible. And then he proved it. He basically came into my office and gave me a sample. We did a measurement, and we showed that, wow, that works. But for me, knowing ketones very well, within 30 minutes, maybe less, my brain just lit up. And I was like, holy cow. And, for me, the first sensation, and I was already in ketosis. So I was already there. It just pushed me in a little further. And it was like the room just got clearer, just got brighter. And so to me, I was excited because I knew I could help a lot more people that are struggling with a lot of conditions, not even just traumatic ones from the mental cognitive side, but just in a lot of ways. And so I ended up talking to a good friend of yours, Brian Underwood, and he asked me one question. He says, do you believe in the product? I go, yes. He asked me two questions, sorry. Do you believe in this product? I go, absolutely, because I knew the value of what it was. And he said to me, he goes, what else do you think we need to do to make this a really, really, really important, valuable product and company? And I go, to establish a strong community to support an amazing product. Because the product, I mean, it's straightforward. It puts you in ketosis. You don't have to do the diet to get the benefit. And for me, that's makes everybody's life easier. And at the end of the day, it's all some people just need. They just need it to be a little simpler, a little easier. And then we've established, a community around this that allows people to be supported, because not every day is going to be easy and perfect. Not like it's going to solve all your problems. But, Javier, as a counselor, you get that if people just felt better, it'd be easier to help them along the way. But if you're still overcoming all these internal factors, it's really hard to help people change maybe some of those behavioral things that they've done over the time.
I have a personal experience, Dustin, with what you're saying is exactly correct. Like in my case, my personal experience was when I began to take the product, there were little things that I noticed. What comes with PTSD, there's a lot of cognitive distortions, right? What we call labeling people, jumping to conclusions, mental filters, feeling bad, making excuses for your bad behavior, things like that. When I started taking the product, I had a lot of compulsive behavior, sadness, and anger for little tiny reasons. When I started taking the product, immediately I could see a change. I could feel it. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but it was more mental focus, and I was more open to therapeutic process because I was still going to therapy to the VA. And I was more open. So things that I've heard before were clearer now. I just could see it now. So I know that this is what it is, And that was my whole process with taking the product and going to sessions as well. So all the little things that were so difficult before, the concepts that were so difficult to grasp, or to do the little homework that we have to do when we're going through PTSD sessions, they became just easier. And at one point I felt that I was like, I can do this on my own. I felt that way. That was my experience with it.
Right. So here's the thing is, as Dustin mentioned, I have a good friend, Brian Underwood, who just happens to be the CEO of this company that produces Keto OS, right? Well, we already know I had issues before. I had a cognitive problem. I had mood swings, and I shared some of that in Vegas. And so things are tough when you have these traumatic events, right? And like Dustin said, when you have this 1,000-pound gorilla on your back, changing your diet is the least of your worries. Me, I didn't care. Yes, I was putting on weight like it was going out of style. And I figured if I was going to get fat, I was going to be the best fat person I could be. And it was tough. So when Brian approached me about ketones, it wasn't necessarily about Keto OS, it was about ketones, because he understood the power of it. He understood how it could help me and my family. And, it wasn't about the weight loss. However, that's one of the side effects, if you will, of ketones and being in ketosis. Nutritionally, obviously, you're going to lose fat. But by taking these exogenous ketones, because plain and simple, that's what this product is, right? We just drink a drink. It tastes like orange creamsicle, and we ingest ketones. And it puts us in an elevated state of ketones in our system, which puts us in a ketosis. So he understood the power of the ketones, and it changed my life forever. Now, is everything perfect? Are the streets paved with ice cream? No. You're going to have your down days. But I tell you what, my world today is drastically different than what it was 6 months ago. And I know that this product, I hear from people all over the place that how ketones and ketosis and Keto OS has really benefited them. one thing that we kind of want to do with this webinar that we're going to be performing, and this is the first of many to come, is to talk about those difficult things that nobody wants to talk about, right? It's hard for people to talk about depression. It's hard for people to talk about mood swings where, you know, your family might not want to be around you because they're walking on eggshells. It's hard to admit as a grown person that maybe you need help getting somewhere or remembering where you are. And that's the position I was in before, and it's quite embarrassing. So I'm going to think of a better panel, Javier, you and Dustin, to help spread this message, for us to be the bearer of that 2,000-pound gorilla on our back saying, hey, I suffered the same way that you might be suffering, and this might help you. Ketones might just be the answer, or might just give you that step up, that helping hand. So I think we can all agree that all of us on this webinar have been through trials and tribulations and have seen and experienced these traumatic events, from traumatic brain injuries to post-traumatic stress to depression, anxiety, everything else that comes with it. So I would like, you know, maybe just to go around this board. I've already told my story, and Javier, we've heard some of yours from taking a product, kind of how it's changed you. Unless look, this is a product, it's great, but what the great thing is it's the ketones in the product, right? So, you know, when we're saying, hey, you know, I took this product and I just felt great, well, the product is a key behind it, but it's because of the ketones. So Dustin, can you share or elaborate a little bit on some of the things that you noticed? I mean, obviously you already did. You were in birthing class, you took the product, and things just got clearer. Were there anything else that you noticed, because you were already in nutritional ketosis, but just by being in nutritional ketosis and then you took the product, did you see any other additional benefits from it?
You know, I have. I didn't tell, you know, completely my whole story, but I actually needed both my knees replaced by the time I was 24. And I have severe arthritis, and just from excessive wear and tear on my body, I'm in a unique situation. And so I had to follow the diet for many, many reasons, not just for the brain trauma, because of the physical discomfort I was in. And for me, you know, being in nutritional ketosis, which is something I've lived in for nearly 15 years, as soon as I took that, there's a level when you get a little deeper, everything just a little bit better. And so I was just able to be more free. My joints were moving much freer. My workouts improved. I don't work out crazy hard anymore, but I was able to go into the gym and just lift more, which it was a reward system, right? When you just feel stronger and your body moves freer with a little bit less achiness, you're going to feel happier. Big thing for me is my sleep improved dramatically. My ability to get things done through the day improved dramatically, so I was more productive through the day, which once again just kind of rewards this reward feeling of like you're accomplishing something. You know, because I'd spent, you know, 15, 20 years just wondering if I really ever could really be just happy and really appreciate what I have. And as I've been taking this, all those things just get more and more appreciative. You know, I've been seeing a counselor on and off for 15 years, but really seriously for the last 3 years, because I knew I wanted to have a family, and my concern was I ever going to truly be able to appreciate my son, or my kids, it happened to be a son, just because I just tend to not appreciate things. And so it wasn't really, I noticed these differences in myself above and beyond being just on the diet, but it was when my wife sat me down and took me out to dinner, and she kind of broke down a little bit and just said, you are the person I always knew you could be. Because my wife really didn't even know me prior to having all these traumatic events, but I'm still a good guy. I mean, I care, I try hard, but there was something else inside me, and she just got to see a different part of me, the smile on my face always. After 8 o'clock at night, I was no longer grumpy. For whatever reason, there's a switch at night. I just, not angry, but not happy. And that was hard for her. And so our relationship has dramatically improved above and beyond. Where there's times when you're in a relationship, you have all these doubts and questions. And I gotta say, in the last year, it's that there hasn't been doubts or any questions, and our dynamic and our relationships improved dramatic. And so this to me is a very emotional topic, because I know that I'm not alone in this, and I know that there's people everywhere that are looking for solutions, and you feel like you're looking up at Mount Everest, and it's like, is it worth it? Is it really worth putting the effort into it? And now there's no question, after consuming this product and being part of this community, I think is also really important, is that absolutely it's worth it. And instead of looking up Mount Everest, I'm just looking up another little hill that's happening in life, and it doesn't seem like it's unobtainable, or I can't overcome it with a combination of this amazing product. And then if I have a situation, I feel more comfortable opening and sharing it with people than I did before.
Awesome. I mean, that's awesome to hear. Javier, do you have anything to add?
No, it's just, what can I say after Dustin spoke, man? It's the same thing. The little things that Dustin spoke about, I can completely relate to it. Same thing: anger, mood swings, just not being able to get through that wall or over that wall. And my wife said the same thing. You're not the same guy that you were when you were active duty. Wear the uniform and always be focusing on the truth in yourself. And I mean, something happened, like Dustin spoke. It just flipped the switch, and things began to make sense. And I'm happy. I'm so happy, not only for myself, my family, for the community as well, what Dustin spoke about. I mean, the community, meeting you, Dustin, has completely changed my life. I always tell Dustin this, bro, I'm glad I got to meet you. And I just told you this morning, I'm glad we got to hook up in Vegas, because now I have a community that relates to what I feel, and hopefully there will be many more to come.
Right. Yeah, let me tell you, I can attest to that. I've been married 21 years, and let me tell you, she's a lucky lady. Okay, so maybe not, but I tell you what, she's put up with some stuff, and my mood swings and things were horrible. All right, like before, you wouldn't catch me dead sitting here talking to you guys, because I had no compassion. I was numb. Right, so there were no feelings other than, well, the feelings we have when we're kind of twisted here and there because of different life experiences. But I can tell you that this product, Keto OS, has been a savior for me. And my wife actually looks at me and she's like in the afternoon, if I start getting grumpy, it's like that Snickers commercial, right? Have you ever seen them where, hey, you look like, it's like Betty White, but then it's some young dude? Well, that's me, right? I get grumpy and she's like, hey, maybe you should take another serving of keto, right? Because it just makes me feel better. I get to think better and just not feel like that 1,000-pound gorilla is on my back all the time. So that's pretty amazing. But I don't want to take this webinar too much further. We like to keep it short because guys like me have a really short attention span. But we are going to have these every week, Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, or 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Are we in agreement on that? Okay. So we do invite you, if you're watching this, to tell other people about it, because in the weeks to come, we're going to get a little bit more in depth about the benefits and about our stories, because our stories, I can almost guarantee you, our story can relate to so many people that others know about, but maybe they don't want to talk about it, right? Because I get that all the time. They say to me, Dom, your story's, been so inspiring. And I know, Javier, you get it. Dustin, you get it. So why not put our dirty laundry out there, if you will, where we discuss how we were and how it affected our life, and that way we can give an option to those that are suffering. Maybe they can try something different and get a little better. And I think that's really what what this is all about, reaching out to people that feel they have no other place to reach, or they feel no one else can relate to them. But I can assure whoever's watching this that we can, between the three of us, we can relate to them. In addition, I just want to say we're going to have other people on here. We're going to have caregivers of people on here giving their story and their experience, because that's pretty important, because my wife is my caregiver. So to hear her story about how ketones and ketosis and Keto OS has really helped me, I think that can reach a lot of people. And then I have another lady who has a really amazing story that we're going to have on here as well. Did anybody have anything else to add?
I'm just grateful that you allowed us to be part of all this. I know that you've kind of been steering this whole thing in, but we've all been a part of it together, of just inspiring other people to just to know that there's other answers out there. And I'm just going to say, you know, whoever invited you to this webinar or to this video, if you're watching it live or if you're watching a recorded version of it, just, you know, reach back to them and ask more questions if you need to, get clarity, reach out to any of us and ask us questions, to know that we're here to support you, and you know, ask them how to get the product if you want to try it, and just know that there's options, caregivers and for people that are just struggling with, you know, situations that they want to overcome.
Awesome. Javier, you got anything?
Yeah, I'm just grateful to be part of this group, and I'm looking forward to many more webinars and bringing more people, and hopefully they get relate to what we have to say, and they can learn from us and we can learn from them as well.
Awesome. Okay, well, again, we're not making any medical claims, and on none of these webinars are we going to be doing that. We're just going to tell you life experiences, what is done for us, what is done for other people, and hopefully other people can take away from it. But before we go, being that we're all military veterans, right? We have a thing about challenge coins. I know we're not in front of each other, but I have one right there. That's my Purple Heart coin. So does anybody else have one? Javier? Dustin?
I don't have one on me.
Oh, you boys owe me.
I do.
All right, next event, you guys owe me something. I don't drink, but water.
I'll give you a hug.
Don't tease me. Okay, you owe me a on-the-go pack.
All right, I love it.
All right, guys. Hey, thanks for doing this with me. It's my honor and pleasure to take part of this community with you guys. And we'll see everybody next Monday. Again, that's 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 Pacific Time. You guys have a great day.
All right, peace out, guys. Thanks.